From an international perspective, the use of a propellant depot is not problematic, but from a launch site perspective, it really needs to be where the launch vehicle goes through low Earth orbit on the way to the moon or on the way to GEO. It's very critical to be in that launch path because it's very expensive propellant-wise to change orbits in low Earth orbit from one inclination to another. Certainly, any mission could take advantage of it as long as it flows through that orbit that the depot is in. Russian launches from Baikonur would find it very difficult to use a propellant depot that's in the orbit that NASA's planning to use on the way to the moon. However, if we put a depot out in Earth-Moon L1, which is a neutral gravity point between the moon and the Earth, then every launch site can achieve that on the way to the moon, and that becomes a natural staging point for the trip from that point down to the surface of the moon and back. So that would make it a very useful location from an international standpoint, and that would be a dual depot. We'd have one in low Earth orbit, we'd have one in Earth-Moon L1, and it would allow the exploration of space and our movement of mankind to the moon and beyond to become a reusable architecture rather than an expendable architecture. Having a depot in low Earth orbit is a great benefit to the exploration of the moon. It not only helps NASA. I mean, NASA has a budget they have to live under to go to the moon, and they have a plan that allows them to do that. Adding 33 tons more of cargo or payload to the mission would be a financial burden as well to their budget. What this does, though, it opens up the possibility of international entities, commercial entities, anybody, to contribute that 33 tons to the mission for the cost of the additional propellant that would be bought in from the depot to get it to the moon. To use nice round numbers, we could say that we could put 30 tons of mass on the moon for 150 tons of propellant that's purchased in low Earth orbit. So for the price of the propellant in low Earth orbit, an entity, whether it's international or commercial, could put a ton of mass on the moon for 5 tons of propellant that they purchase in LEO. So, you're getting a delivery capability of the moon on a marginal cost of about 5 tons of propellant. Mike Griffin has said that that's worth to NASA $10,000 a kilogram or $10 million a ton. So that's basically $50 million a ton to the moon as a price for putting a test case, a payload, an experiment, a demonstrator for commercial activity. Those are reasonable numbers for small countries, for commercial entities that might take on that challenge. And it gets more capability on the moon. NASA is not burdened with that extra cost by themselves. It opens up the opportunity for more players, and it allows us to grow our capability much faster.